Drones are becoming more and more accessible, and the footage you can capture with them can have the ability to transform your videos in a way of storytelling. I want to share with you some really basic things that I've picked up throughout my time of flying drones that are going to help to really improve the level of storytelling in your videos when using a drone. See, if you use these techniques, your videos are going to become more impactful, the story is going to feel like it's moving along much more naturally, and I'm also actually going to reveal a Hollywood secret later in this video, so make sure you stay tuned right till the end. So as you can see, I'm currently here in the Telalalang, I think that's how you say it, rice terraces in Bali, where I'm going to share with you some really powerful techniques that are going to help to transform your storytelling with drone footage. Let's get into it. After flying here for a little while, it actually turned out to be a very tricky place to fly. There were lots of ropes and wires and things going between the different trees, and I didn't want to risk crashing the drone. So I'll also show you some clips that I took from other locations that are going to help to describe what I'm showing throughout this video. So we're going to make a start right at the beginning of a video. So an establishing shot, basically showing off a landscape or a new location. Drones give you a much different perspective than you get from just a handheld camera because they have the ability, well, they're a camera in the sky, so you can get a much broader landscape of what the area is that you're shooting in. So let's talk about a few different types of shots that you can use as establishing shots, how they work, and what's going to suit you best, depending on the situation you're in. The first establishing shot that I'm going to cover is basically flying forwards whilst doing up tilt on the gimbal. What this allows you to achieve is a feeling that you're coming into a new scene, and the rise of the gimbal also reveals more and more of the scene as the shot progresses, really adding to that new location, story-driven footage feel. The next one is another really simple one when it comes to actually flying the drone, but you have to have the right sort of location setup for this to work. So how this one works, you basically start off low down behind an object that's obscuring the scene that you want to show, and then you just push upwards on the stick and you let the drone rise up, revealing the scene. Now, because you've got that foreground movement and the background movement, this shot looks really powerful, but as you can see, it's only really suitable in certain situations when you have an object in the front you can use as foreground that's going to block out the scene. And the third establishing shot that I'm going to give you is just nice and high, flying in a dead straight line forwards, no gimbal movement, nothing like that, just really simple, revealing the whole scene. Now, with a bit of nice editing and some good sound design, this can be a really powerful way to bring people into a new scene of a story. Do you notice anything that these establishing shots have in common? Well, the majority of them actually have some form of forward movement in them. And forward movement gives the viewer the impression that the story is progressing, they're moving forwards into somewhere new, where generally if there's backwards movement, that's giving you the feeling that you're leaving a scene, something is coming to a close. So whenever you're trying to open or reveal a scene, try to incorporate some forwards movement. That's going to help things just feel a lot more natural to the viewer. So once we've created our establishing shot, or we've moved into a new location with a new establishing shot, you need to show off this location. I'm going to give you a few shots here that are going to really help you to do that. The first one is really nice and simple, but something you can literally only do with a camera drone like this, and it's going to be nice and high, the camera pointing straight down, looking down at the scene from a bird's eye perspective. Now, another way you can take this shot to the next level is you add a little bit of descending or rotation into the shot. That's going to give it a little bit more dynamic movement and make things much more interesting for whoever is viewing the video. So the next one is going to be the orbit. Now, the orbit is a very sort of flexible maneuver. You can do it really close up to show off a subject, or you can do it really far away and take advantage of the parallax effect, which is going to give you some really nice foreground and background movement within your shots. And the orbit is such a versatile maneuver. Just calling it the orbit is basically just going around a person, but you can use this style of maneuver in many different ways. You can also include some gimbal rotation, some forwards and backwards movement, just to really take this sort of maneuver to the next level. And it's a very basic shot that comes in very handy when showing off a scene. Something else you should include when you're showing off your scene is you should have a variation of close-up and far away shots. What this is going to do is going to create a bit more interest for the viewer. So if you have something that's really far away showing off the broad landscape, then you can zoom into something a bit closer within that previous shot, and then you can zoom in even closer to get more of a sort of specific detailed look or whatever the subject is that you're trying to capture. And putting these three things together, sort of far, close and medium, is really going to help to drive that storytelling aspect and just make your footage look even more cinematic, and it's just going to help your videos to stand out. So we're going to move on now to some shots that are going to help to progress the story forward. Now, what this means, you've established a shot, you've created some nice scenes to get the thing going, then the story is going to continue. Obviously something is going to happen. So the best sort of shots that are going to be used for this, the dolly is a very, very handy shot that comes in very useful for a lot of different situations. You can track subjects parallel to them. You can hear the people screaming. I'm in, like I said, the rice terrace, and there are rope swings everywhere, so people are swinging off them, going crazy. But like I said, the dolly is a very versatile shot. You can use it flying parallel to somebody, flying in front of them, going backwards to see them moving forwards towards you. It's just a shot you can use in a lot of different ways. They're going to help to tell the story is progressing. On a similar sort of line to the dolly shot, we're going to use tracking shots. Now, with the Mini 4 Pro, we actually get Active Track 360, which gives us a lot of different tracking methods in our disposal. Because of this, you can achieve some really nice cinematic dynamic footage that you couldn't do just flying manually if you were trying to film yourself. So taking use of the active tracking methods on your drone, if it has one, you can have the drone perform some much more complex maneuvers, and it's going to be much easier for you to do it. Another powerful tracking feature you can use if your drone has got it is something called the spotlight mode, which basically turns your drone into a tripod in the sky. So you can park it somewhere, and then you can just have the drone to track you, and you can have it follow you wherever you go, and it's going to give you that sort of movement in the shot that makes it more interesting, but also shows that the story is progressing because you're moving to somewhere else, or a vehicle is moving to somewhere else. Basically, the movement in the shot just helps to show that the story is progressing. Now, I've been saying a lot about people going in directions or things moving in directions, but what's the right direction to actually be moving in? Well, this is that Hollywood secret that I was telling you about at the start. I'm going to reveal it. So something that Hollywood knows that probably a lot of you filmmakers don't know, that the subconscious mind works in wonderful ways. And what do I mean by that? Well, basically, if your footage shows somebody moving from the right of the screen to the left of the screen, this sort of gives a dark and gloomy sort of emotion to the scene and makes you feel like something is not going to go well. Well, if somebody is moving from the left of the screen to the right of the screen, it kind of makes you think, something good's about to happen. And if you go home and sit down and watch your favorite movies again, once you know this little trick, you will never be able to unsee it. So if you see somebody moving from left to right in a shot, they're running, whatever, they're going to war, it's going to be a good outcome. But if somebody's moving from the right to the left, chances are something bad is about to happen, or it's not a good scene. We can use this secret to our advantage when doing our filmmaking, so if you're filming something that's uplifting, happy, try and have things in the scene moving from left to right, which is going to give the viewer that sort of subconscious feeling that makes everything feel right. Alright, so you open the scene, you've shown off the scene, your stories progress, it's time to talk about closing shots. Now remember what I said at the start when I said that when you're revealing a new scene or you're progressing, forwards movement is really handy to help this come across correctly. And also when you're closing a scene, moving backwards is a really handy tip to help that feel natural as well. Like something is coming to an end, you're moving out of a scene, it just feels right. So on those lines, the simplest of all the closing shots is just a pull back, simply moving the drone backwards, leaving the scene. You can add some gimbal rotation up or down if you like, depending on what sort of scene it is. That can just help to add another little level of dynamic movement into the shot, but just a straight pull back is normally more than enough to justify a closing shot. So the next closing shot I'm going to cover is going really high up and again just moving backwards. Now the previous shot I was talking about was more of a lower level shot where you're just moving backwards out of the scene, where this one is going to be more sort of high up. You can also add a bit of elevation change as well. If you pull in backwards and upwards, it's going to feel much more like you're leaving the scene. This shot can be really useful if you've been filming in a really large sort of area. It can help to just bring everything to a close as you leave the scene. And the last closing shot I'm going to cover in this one is a reversal of one of the opening shots that I showed you. So basically, instead of moving up from behind an object this time, we're just going to drop down behind the object that's blocking the scene, and then we're going to basically bring that scene to a close. So these are the basic sort of moves that are going to help to really improve your story-driven footage when it comes to drone footage, and implementing some of these into your next video is going to help to really transform what the viewer is experiencing as they move through your video. Now, if you want even more types of drone shots to use in your video, check out this video here where I give you 10 really cinematic drone moves that you can use to transform your videos as well. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great time. Stay safe, fly well, and get that story-driven footage down to a T. Bye-bye.
Oh, I wanna stay right here.